You guys have pretty good block strike. It's not too bad. You could probably put some more time in there, but you're going to experience some diminishing returns there. I feel like I've done like, over my career, I've done like 2,000 sets of block strike or something like that. So it's, well, if you think about it, it's only like 2,000. Like that's not that much. Like it's a fair amount, but it's like achievable within. I think that might take a person like 2 years to do amounts of it, but you guys aren't like necessarily super behind on that. I might try to sharpen that up a little bit, but I think the other drills that I'll show you guys that are kind of based on block strike will help you a lot. It's ABA, it's BAB, and we do it with single sword. And you can do all this shit with combinations too, is what we found out with. It's something that we should probably do. I figure we'll do single sword stuff in the morning. We'll go get some lunch. We'll do open stuff at the end of the day. Does that sound about right? Yeah, sounds good. I'll show you guys those drills. I think the main areas to target for improvement for you guys. So block strike's pretty good, especially in U3. The main areas for improvement is mostly like range control and planning. Like I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's actually kind of Travis had some of the highest success rates against me. Like probably second highest. I think he had the most kills. But he's also probably the best trained out of you. But you had the second most. And it's because I feel like I'm not judging anybody or anything like that or ranking anybody. I feel like Ben's block strike is a little better than yours. Like well maybe even a good bit better than yours. But I feel like I don't know if you picked up on that and you did it on purpose, but you actually did a little bit better against me than Ben did because you wouldn't block strike with me, which was a fucking smart thing to do because like it's kind of like throwing yourself against a concrete wall. Whereas you kind of like look for a side door. I don't know if that's just how you like to fight or something like that, or if that was like something you planned. But
unfortunately, it was not a very conscious choice. I know you're way better at block strike than any of us, so I don't want to get into that with you. But at the same time, the side entrances instead of just the straightforward way is how I've been fighting for the longest time.
I don't know if you were planning it or not, or that's just how you happen to fight.
A little bit, but not much.
Well, the cool part about that kind of thing is it can get me out of that mode. It can get me to do different stuff. Like, for example, I was getting you guys with a lot of leads, but I wasn't getting him with leads because I was like, oh shit, he's going to counter me. You know what I mean? I can't just fly and hit him. So you guys need to make sure that you switch that approach up. And you need to hold your range a little bit better. You need to stand kind of further out, don't let me come in, that kind of stuff. Mix in more side-to-side movement, more positioning, and just play with it and have a good time with it, that kind of stuff. Like, that's your general stuff for single sword. Mel, I felt like you were trying to get me to block strike with you by throwing a safe shot and then waiting for me to do something, but like you just wouldn't do anything. Like at that point, you actually have to threaten me with your stick. Like you have to walk in and be like, like one of the best things you can actually do when you're sparring like a warlord or somebody who's smoking you and smoking you, it's just this. Like if I'm coming in and Nate's killing me, he just counters me, and I come in, and I'm like, oh man, I can't get him to do what I want him to do. Just do this sometimes. Like just fly it and hit him. Because at some point you have to get people to respect your equipment. And this kind of goes for you too. You have to make sure that I'm thinking, yes, they can and will hit me with that if I don't do something really intelligent. Whereas like before, if you guys are kind of waiting for me to do something, that gives me a ton of time to just plan and figure stuff out. You know, there's a certain thing to be said for, like it's like boxing. Have you ever heard there's like an adage in boxing where you have to get hit to hit somebody? You know what I mean? And that's okay it's okay to have some simultaneous. It's okay to take an offhand, you know, that kind of stuff. It's okay to just walk in and throw out. Like make sure that they respect your equipment. That's something and that'll probably frustrate a lot of warlords if you guys eventually do that to them. It's like, oh man, he didn't even care what happened. But it's like, it kind of resets the story that you're telling when you fight. It's like, it just makes sure that they're being honest about their equipment and that they're threatened by your stuff and that they're accounting for what you're doing instead of just kind of walking all over you. So that's actually helping with a lot of spars. Just simultaneously throw in. I'm not saying do that all the time. I'm not saying abandon technique, but I'm saying if your back's up against a wall and you don't know what to do, it's okay to just go in and throw. You know what I mean? We have like there's no social onus to have great technique. You know what I mean? Like if you kill me but you didn't do it in a way that I appreciate it, like I'm fucking dead. You know, it doesn't. There's no like social contract for it. Well, you didn't kill me with a technique, so fuck you, buddy. Like, no, you got whacked. End of the story. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So work on some of that kind of stuff, especially since you guys probably train together all the time because you murdered your local dag park like morons. You guys need to try to change. Oh yeah, it's all new. Actually, I probably believe that. Come to think of it. But anyway, make sure you're playing with the positioning, experimenting with different like modes of attack. Like you might want to try block striking more. You might want to try countering more. No, you might want to just walk in and throw into the body some of the time and try to hand block, that kind of stuff. Like make sure that you guys are constantly changing up what you're doing. We'll talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, don't just block strike all the time. Don't just feel like I have to fight with this style. This is my style. Do every style. You know what I mean? Do lots of different things. That's one of the most important things when you're training is to try on many hats, many thinking hats. All right. So let's. I would like to take a look at your block strike when you guys do it together. If you haven't done it. I didn't really give you, he's Dan, right? I didn't really give you any critique. I see that you have watched videos, and I see that you have listened to some of the theory. You need a lot more practice. Like, your hand was in the right spot, but when I'm like, okay, I'm going to move in, it was kind of apparent that, like, there's not as much of a base of training there. You just need to bring that up. Like, theory is, I don't even think theory is like 5 or 10% of the battle anymore. It's like, it's real nice to guide your training, but the guides your training is the training that gets people winning, you know what I mean? A lot of the time, like, I would narrate to you guys when I'm like, I got trapped and didn't have a plan, you know what I mean? I'll go like, I just throw. And I was telling you guys when I was doing that, because that's kind of like, that's when you default to having lots of experience, you know what I mean? When something weird happens and you figure it out anyway, you just throw anyway, you know what I mean? Just kind of ride by the skin of your teeth. And it's always really surprising when you win that way, but you just got to get lots of time in. So anyway, I want to see everybody's block strike. And if there's any strategies that we need to fix up, we'll fix those up. And then we'll do ABA, we'll do BAB, and we'll do a new drill that I just invented that I'm not sure if it works, and it hurts like hell, but it's called CNC because letters. So let's do block strike first. So I want to see you two pop off the set together. It's okay. Say something, just say here. Okay, so that's pretty good. I feel like their hands could be a little bit higher. Travis, you're reaching in with your body to try to throw. You might want to just stand a little bit closer. What you want to do is you want to build a basic form in your upper body that's applicable to your lower body doing whatever it wants. So what that means is, if you train to have your center of balance over here to throw like this, you will always have to do this forward motion to throw a shot because it will be built into your mechanic. You don't want that because some of the time you want to be able to step to the side and throw, or step back and throw. So you really need to make sure that you have a neutral torso. You want to picture yourself as a marionette with that little cross, like, and strings hanging down, and you kind of want to just, when you block strike, you want to swivel on it. So, like, anytime you guys do a drill, you need to make sure that you have, like, a neutral spine such that you're able to add footwork and motion into it. Like, we don't want to build into our reverse wrap mechanic this dip and only throw reverse wraps this way. We want to understand this mechanic, and then occasionally we want to be able to add this knee drop mechanic to our reverse wrap. So we just want to make sure that they're discrete elements. So when you block strike, when you pel, neutral spine. It's neutral spine, swivel around on it, that kind of thing. I think you guys could be a little bit higher for top quadrants. You guys were down here. I just worked out right here. I think you could be up here. I think you guys could do more shot variety. Like, I think he popped off some wraps, but most of your wraps to this side, wait, I didn't see that side, were low reverse wraps. I want you to make sure that you're trying this wrap too, like a flat wrap to this side. That one can actually be really powerful also. And if you keep it, if you throw in some wraps up here, you'll see how this makes it really easy to guard this side. But in addition, it'll get his hand to drift up higher, which makes these reverse reps, it makes them more powerful, more likely to land. I don't think, not on that side, but I didn't see you wrapping very much. But you want to make sure that you guys have you mostly have the pacing down. That's good. Like I saw that you guys messed up the timing a little bit. That's all right. I think you guys were kind of trying to go maybe a little bit too fast. Like 75 to 80% speed is usually good enough for block strike, and occasionally do some 100% speed sets, like maybe one a day, because you want to make sure that you're looking at you're using the tool to illustrate the returns and to practice different patterns and different shots. So make sure that you guys work on that shot variety. Can we see? Let's see hand action. Actually, let me see left on left. That's a good idea. Oh god. No, don't worry about anything that I just said. You're going to work on that. You need to memorize that and work on it next time. I want to see what you guys have been training to do all this time. Offhands usually sit right here. You need to be able to hit this back. I want you to try occasionally flat wrapping up here. Brings this hand right here. It circumvents the guard and the hand block pretty well. Try to add that in too. I don't know if you also did that on the other side. That's just a reverse wrap. It's just a standard, like, you know how you reverse wrap the shoulder? You can reverse wrap the chest.
I was trying to think about going back to guard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just... Actually, what I like to do when I throw a flat wrap and I hit, if you hit kind of shallow and can come off, you can loop around like this. And the neat part about that is, when you loop, I did a video on this a long time ago. I don't know if you found it. It's kind of hidden gem. But if you flat wrap and loop up, the kinetic energy in the sword up here actually guards both quadrants temporarily, which I think is really kind of a neat little physics gem.
I think you had hair in that video. Yeah. No, not very much. Don't driveway. I saw it though.
I was really fucking big in that video too. I was like, oh my god. I saw it recently. I was like, my gains. They're gone. Hand matching, please. I don't like this. Same thing. You gotta hit this chest. You're hitting down here real low. You also, I noticed on hand matching, I don't know if it's the same thing, but that's the neutral spine. You need to work on that on hand matching at the very least, maybe. But yeah, you're kind of leaning over a little bit to try to fight from this position. There's nothing wrong with fighting from this position so long as you can snap to this position when it's advantageous and it's not something that you have to do.
Do I need to be closer?
Huh?
I have a shorter range.
You might have to be a little closer to him, sure. But that's something that you need to be able to figure out to be like, hey, can I strike him comfortably? You might need to get Travis a shorter sword to do this with you, something
He's
like
got
that.
a shorter sword. He's using a 36. I'm using a 36. But
you might need to get him a slightly shorter one to kind of fit in the space.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? I was just block striking with a guy named Charles, and he's this freaking tall. He's like 6'3", 6'4", and he's just like his reach is so long that he kind of can't put his tip of his sword on me very well, because I have to be so close to hit him that like his shots are like almost have to be around like that for me to be able to reach his chest. So we have to get him like a 30.
Couldn't you pull it like that?
Huh?
Couldn't you pull the shot like this?
Yeah, but I don't want him to practice that. You know what I mean? I want him to little block strike for his max reach, but we can't find anyone tall enough to do that with him. Okay, let me see this other side. What is it? step, we're still doing the top quadrant step. You guys need to make sure that your hands are higher. I think you guys are hitting each other's hips. I think that was because your hands were down here. But when we practice top quadrants, we want to hit these top ones. We worry about hips and stuff later. We want to keep our hands high when we guard. I want you guys to work on. You guys are still throwing down here real low. One of the most powerful hand matching shots, it's literally just a horizontal shot in here because it stops right here. But when you guys are block striking, you guys are coming down, almost down to here is where you guys are landing. So you need to keep top quadrants high. You guys need to make sure that you're hitting the arm and the pec. And if someone hits low, you need to call low and let the other guy know.
I didn't realize we were doing top. My bad. I thought we were doing all the quadrants.
Yeah, you don't do.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gotcha.
And there's the first thing.
only top quadrants. This is how we were looking at. We can look at low quadrants later. Like low quadrants, you guys would have been right. We don't really do all quadrants with single sword. I'm not terribly sure why that is. That's not how I was taught to do it. I would imagine there is some benefit to doing all quadrants because like that's what happens when you fight. But at the same time, I feel like practicing low quadrants in isolation is a little bit better. Like one top quadrant, one low quadrant. That tends to work better because it makes you have to snap up and down a little bit better. And it's more focused on which guards and which shots you're working on. So I think that specificity is kind of the power of it. So I would add those ones in. Do you guys know what those are? They're like, there's top quadrants is a set, there's a top quadrants is a kind of drill, and then you do like sword and off hip, and then you do offside chest and sword side hip, and you split them that way. The way that we were traditionally taught to do it was with 2 quadrants at a time. That makes sense.
The opposite is how I used to do it, but that's a while back, so I guess I just forgot.
It's alright. But it's not like those sets are gonna fuck you up. You know what I mean? It's not like doing it that way is gonna fucking ruin everything, and you guys are gonna be shit fighters forever because you didn't separate the quadrants or anything like that. Yes, when I do the stuff with full combo, we tend to do all quadrants then, but it's because you have more defensive leeway because you have a second piece of equipment, so 2 quadrants doesn't make sense for that. But, split it up that way, try it. It's a little bit more focused and helps with concentrating on low quadrants a lot more. I think, except for Nate, you guys were all a little bit weaker on the low quadrants, like you two. So maybe try that a little bit. I think it's because you probably experience those shots more because you're shorter. That's probably not wrong. But no, that doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean like the angle is easier.
That might be a little bit easier for you. I think you might just be a little bit better practiced in general for it. And you tend to fight with your hand kind of low. But just make sure that you just do the blast right the way fuck you said. God damn it. Jesus Christ.
Stop asking questions!
Well, I got some. Awesome. Alright, so I want to see. I want to see Travis and Mel watch it. Okay. You need to focus more on the generation of force than these other guys are going to have to. So you're not quite as strong. And what that means is when you throw, you need to come back to this 90-degree position, and you need to recruit more torso energy into it. You should probably do the same thing. It's just not as pressing of an issue. I think that your rate of fire would improve a lot if you really focused on getting your torso recruited and throwing from a stable position from right here. You're kind of coming back about this far. That makes sense when you can do skull crushers at 120 pounds like Travis can, but I'm sorry. That would make sense if you could do skull crushers at 270 pounds like Travis can. Sorry. But I think that'll improve the how rapidly that you can throw, and it'll get your shots to have a little bit more snap to them, and it'll kind of increase the turnaround of the shots, because you don't want to try to throw really rapidly with kind of like an inefficient shot path, because it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? It just turns into So you just need to make sure that you get some body English on those shots so you can generate a little bit more power. Do you want to show me left on left? Don't worry about it for right now. Just do how you're trying to do for right now. Okay, two things. This foot, this needs to be pointed at him. So this needs to be a little bit like that. That helps with force generation a little bit. You want to move that foot out just a little bit further. No, this way.
Like
This, yeah, right there. And you want, because you want to be able to see. Look at my leg. My knee is oriented with my foot. Right. If I sight this way, my force comes through a little bit more cleanly because we're using an efficient biomechanical path. If I turn this way even a little bit, it has a braking effect because my force wants to go that way because it wants to go in the direction of how the direction my joint hitches. You know what I mean? So when you line up to do this, always point your toe. If anybody's not pointing your toe, make sure that you're pointing your toe. The only reason to not point your toe at them is if you're pigeon-footed, like your foot is actually rotated on the bones, like Shiona's like that. Everyone's like, point your toe, Shion. It's like, I physically fucking can't. Like my feet are turned this way, and his knee is pointing in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The other thing is your offhand, its position when you're block striking is important. Remember how we were talking about having a neutral spine and a neutral ability to rotate efficiently. If you had your hand, it wasn't too bad, but it was out here, right? If you see that floating out, you need to make sure that you bring it in and that you're not creating balance with this offhand, because if you practice creating balance with this offhand in any position, even just out here, it's less recruitable for when you need to hand block, because your whole system is dependent on anchoring your body weight by throwing your hand out. So it helps me to, when I did this, I kept it on my belt a lot, like I kept it up here sometimes, that kind of thing. I've had people keep it back here, just kind of move it around, but make sure that it's free, you know what I mean? Don't, it's a good way to tell if your block strike is being anchored by your offhand is if it's rigid in space. You know what I mean? Like if I move out this way, then my hand moves. I'm using my hand to create bounce. If I go like this, I'm using my legs now. It's a minute difference, but we want to make sure that we can move our offhand to throw any location. Okay, show me a hand match. Okay, flat wrap mechanics, it's your left hand. Work on your flat wrap mechanics with your left. That's important. That's pretty much it. One thing to pop in mind is when you're hand matching, don't be afraid to backhand out here. It's not the best shot in the world, right? But if you backhand here, well, what do you think she's going to throw back? Right there. And then it's real easy to throw in. So, like, it wasn't that that's wrong that you guys never did that. It was just something that happened to pop into my head. Yeah. Like, when you block strike, you have tasks that you have to complete. And the first task is my hand in the right space? And am I throwing at the appropriate pace? Right? The second task is, am I throwing with good form? The second task is, am I throwing with variety, and am I throwing to each quadrant evenly? Right? The last task is actually figuring out patterns and setups and that kind of thing. And that's just one of the examples that's available to you. It's just a real basic pattern to pop in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Because I haven't block striked in a long time. Or not very much, actually. I did something this past week, but since then it had been months. You know what I mean? And it's always important to come back to this kind of thing. But just try to that backhand to get people throwing.
Do you ever throw binos where you thrust it all the way across?
Rotate?
I can't bend that man line. If I try to do that, it'd stop like right here. That's not even a shot. I have to do like
It's getting
away.
No!
But I don't know. I can't.
Oh,
It's not wrong. I can't do it.
Gotcha.
Okay, other side. Okay, outside guard is crumpling a little bit. You're coming out vertically like that to guard on the outside. Remember, got to make a roof. Rain, other hilarious things. Throw up your house, stuff like that. Make sure it's house. All right, so that's good for you. Let's get Ben and Dan going on this.
Melody.
So I want to hold that camera.
Or
We look at
Nate.
this. And
Whoever's
then
arm's still working.
What we'll do after this, what time is it? I hope you have a good charge on that.
It's 10:42.
10:50. We got plenty of time. We'll do some, just a little bit of like the low quadrant work just so you guys see what that's like. And then we'll do ABA, AB, and I'll teach you a fun spin on that one that I invented because I'm a fucking genius. Ah! So I noticed, and this is your main hand, so it's particularly, it's not like you generate force from right here. Like this. This is not getting kind of stiff. You know what I mean? You need to come back a little bit more with your hand to generate more power. It looks like your hand was mostly in the right space. You definitely needed to do it in resets because your tempo is not quite on. There's a bunch of, I think there were like 5 or more misclicks. Like it's okay to have 1 or 2, but this particular sound that you need to do like more of a show me left and left. It's the same kind of issues. So I want you to try more backhands. Set stuff up. Remember that some of the backhands also are shallow, so they're easy to get back. So make sure you mix some of those in. Should we hand match it? Look at the side. So the main thing I noticed on that one is your guards, both of you actually, your guards are recessed kind of tight. When you block strike, it's okay to have a recessed guard when you fight. When you block strike, we're trading our guard to kind of come out as far as we can. And the reason that our guards come in closer when we actually fight is because we're stacking our, we're basically, you have a sliding scale between offense and defense, and when we come back like this, we're kind of stacking towards offense and our ability to repose quickly and very hard. But block strike is more about an exercise of, it's more about an exercise of controlling the defense and making sure that your defensive form is strict, it doesn't have any holes in it. So you want to focus on that for a block strike. Just keeping the hand out. Okay, show me the other side. So, the last main thing is definitely your torso movement. It's not very loose, it's not very free. You're fighting almost from your shoulder, which has a lot of problems to it. You're not really able to generate a lot of force or a lot of precision with just extending your arm and using your shoulder. Like, I can't even do it, and I spend all day, every day trying to get bigger. So make sure that you're adding in some torso rotation. It's kind of hard to make sense of it first, but if you're moving your torso while you block strike, eventually you'll start saying, if I move now, you know what I mean, if I rotate now, that'll make it easier for me to throw. Like, you just get, I guess, a subconscious idea of it, but until you kind of free up your torso and get it more active, it's just not, it's going to be difficult to work on, and you're not going to get the same kind of pop and the same kind of high pace that people that are moving their torsos are able to do. You were moving your torso a fair amount. I'm not sure that it was as much as you could be or should be. I don't know. Just something to think about. I want to see you do a set with Tisco real quick, because you guys do the most of the skidding, don't you?
Typically.
Okay, I want to see that.
Yeah, they do it in the middle of the fucking night while I'm trying to sleep.
You could get good, or you
Do it while you're trying to sleep?
Yeah, well, I have work in the morning.
Okay, well,
you
rule
could get
number
good,
one
or
is
you could
always be dubbing. Always be whacking. Always be dubbing. Always be dubstep.
I thought it was always be lifting.
I guess, no, it's always be whacking.
Where does lifting fit in?
Lifting is whacking weights, so
Okay.
So just up.
I understand why it's confusing.
Yeah, you know.
Okay. Well, going really fast is really good for highlighting mistakes, so that's good. That was clearly it. Wasn't as precise as your slow sets. You're generating force by leaning side to side, like this, and like this. Make sure you rotate in space. You're kind of kipping your torso forward, and you're doing a good job of coming forward and back, and you're doing it with your legs, and that's pretty good. Try to get more rotation into, you're kind of like, you're exploding forward from your legs, and that's a good way to generate force, but you want to generate forward force with that. You know what I mean? We want to generate our block strike force and our swinging force by rotating our torso. If you guys want to do left and left, that's fine. Okay, Ben, you shot variety with your left hand. I counted the shots to just, there were two. 2 out of all of those shots were to the other quadrant. So you definitely need to work on that. Show me a hand action. About the same stuff.
Just trying to get their ankle.
Okay, yeah, you guys are getting a little tight. It's pretty good. You guys have clearly done this a good bit. That's fine. Keep doing it. Work on those critiques that I gave you guys about neutral torso, generating force by rotating the shoulders and the torso. Make sure that your hand is coming back to generate force, so you're not just kind of flicking forward like that.
Would that be more pelling?
Pelling, but you have to focus on block strike too.
Okay, no, I'm just for the rotation.
Pelling will help with that also. I feel like the way that I would use it is pelling is easy. It's low cost in terms of your joints and your muscles. So I might pel slowly on days when I'm sore to get more practice in, but also let my body heal. So, and also like when other people aren't available, that kind of thing.
So you'd block strike over pelling?
I would block strike over pelling for sure, man.
Okay.
Unless you have specific shots that are failing, like if your reverse wraps or your flat wraps aren't particularly good, you can use pelling as kind of a fix-up strategy. But I used pelling because no one else was available for me to fight, you know what I mean? But you guys live with 5 fighters, so, you know, like, it's not too terribly difficult to get somebody out to fight. But you guys might do it on days when you're sore, when you don't have anyone else available, when no one else feels like pelling, or if you have specific shots that you feel need tuned up, just tune up those shots. Because you'll throw hundreds of all of the shots and get a more holistic experience from block strike than you will from pelling.
The shot that I have the most problem with is, say, if I'm out here, and then he throws right up there. I have trouble throwing that lane. Yeah, throw it down that shoulder.
That's a backhand.
Yeah, I have trouble throwing the backhand down this. I don't have trouble throwing down that shoulder though.
Well, I mean, his hands in the land.
Well, I mean like force generation wise.
Right. Okay, we'll call that then. So you would do that every day, and maybe you guys might want to set like 1 day a week to doing lots of pelling tops. You know what I mean? You guys are fucking young. You have 5 people to fight. You know, don't waste your youth pelling. Like, you'll be fine. So do maybe 1 day a week, and then hit your trouble areas every day. But just your trouble areas, or do as much as you can at everything, because every day you're dying because you only get so many days to live. And
Tell me more, Kai Green.
what if you never make it? What if you die first? You could die in a car accident before you warlord Tisco. Just think about that. So 4 hours a day it is.
Stay up the lights.
All right. What time is it?
After you get a watch.
I'm going to hit you in the face with that iPad. And it's going to be great because I'm going to do it with the camera.
As long as when you
and it's see you screaming. Oh, God!
Well, as long as when you do it, you impart just like some gains to me, you know?
I could just, I'll snap some off and just...
Clean yourself up. Yeah. I'm 5 pounds heavier now.
Alright. Now I forgot what time it was.
10:53.
10:53. So you have to go at 12:30? Okay, you're just going to climb in your car and go? Okay, I'm going to show you go left on that beast. We're going to do something called ABA. It stands for Attack, Block, Attack. I don't really like to call it that because I don't feel like it's terribly descriptive and it's easy to mix up with BAB, which is Block, Attack, Block. And one person does each of those. So I'd like to call it the lunging drill because you lunge. So it makes sense. What you do for this drill, and we're going to do a variation of this again later in the day. For this drill, if I have Travis here standing in place, he stands, right? He doesn't move. He's allowed to move his feet after the first contact of my weapon on him or his equipment. And what I do is, I come in, and I get to like a nice comfortable lunge distance. I throw, he throws back, I throw, and we reset. And what this does is, this lets you practice your leads and your setups, right? This takes what we learned with block strike, with the statistical information that it teaches and the form and such, and it turns it from like something you do when you're in the bottom of the 9th against somebody, and hopefully block strike saves you, into something that you can lead a fight with, right? The variation that I like to do with ABA is that you're allowed to feint while you lunge in. That makes it a little bit more difficult. It makes it such that like he has a little bit more challenge than to read a straight attack, but I don't think that people should do that at first. I think that you should start off with just straight lunges and straight attacks until you get used to it. And keep in mind, you don't have to lunge far to do this. Like when I was taught this drill, we were encouraged to lunge from like fucking here. But the problem with that is, if I lunge at him from this far away, chances are I'm going to have some body language when I'm coming into the runway that he's going to be able to figure out what shot it is. So I like to do a nice, comfortable, like an actual fight distance lunge, which is really just a single step.
Where are you throwing with that backhand?
A backhand, I'm
No,
assuming.
where is it? 'Cause I
Where,
always-
not what.
Where? I always see you hitting like up here.
Yeah, I was just trying to get him to throw back at me that particular time. You don't always have to threaten their body. Don't feel like you have to. Some of the most effective things to do is definitely a Peter thing, is to like jump low on the pommel to get him to cross the thing and then throw back something else, you know what I mean? Like, not all of your attacks have to hit your opponent. Like, most of them don't anyway. You can use them to set up better opportunities. But in ABA, a lot of the time we use that to get him to throw back where we want him to. Makes sense. And don't think that your first attack is always just some shallow setup or something like that. Because if he catches on to that, it makes it really easy for him to be like, okay, well, this first one's bullshit. I don't need to move. You know what I mean? And then they just pop in. So, like, 50, 60, 70% of your shots should be real shots. Some of them are just dump shots to the hand. That makes sense. So, what we're going to do is, we got one person's holding the camera. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how I like to do this is when I have lots of people that want to do this, is you can have one person stand while everyone goes in a circle and lunges at them, or you can have like a couple people stand and you can go in a fucking sweet circle.
I thought we were gonna pause it though when we did this.
I
thought we were gonna pause.
You're gonna pause.
The camera.
You don't have to show them it, but like
No. I mean 2, 2, 2.
2, 2, 2 is fine.
Okay. Never mind.
Okay.
I think the best way to do it is to have 2 people stand and then 3 people lunge. And I'll lunge it first, and then I'll probably stop lunging and watch you guys do it. We'll have you stand since you're already standing. So you stand right about here.
No, the dog shit's up there.
Huh?
There's 2.
Yeah.
There's one down there
Someone
somewhere and one up here
stand,
somewhere.
Like right here. So someone will lunge at this weak weight, and then they'll turn and lunge at this guy. And a third person is waiting for their opportunity to lunge again at Travis. That makes sense. We're here because it does the same stuff, you know what I mean? But it lets you play with it in an offensive manner a little bit more. So
That's good stuff.
I feel like this is actually, since it ties in footwork and range, I feel like this is much more valuable in terms of actual martial success. Like block strike, still important, still builds your basic offense, defense, pattern recognition. ABAB is how to apply it. Like there's tons of people out there who have good instincts and don't know how to apply it. This is how you analytically figure out how to do it. Okay, so BAB is the opposite. I feel like I call it the walking drill because everyone walks when they do this. I don't think this is quite as valuable as ABA. We dropped it almost entirely after having put like, I think we put like a winter and a half where we did this, and then the third winter when we did this shit, we're just like, we're done with this one. But I think that you guys should still definitely put this one in. The nicer part about it is it's a lot less energy than the other one. So if Tisco stands, I'm the walker. Tisco is standing in place. He's not allowed to move his feet until he makes first contact with my equipment. I have to walk towards him until he swings at me. I block. I get to throw back once, and then he throws again. So it's literally like I walk forward, and he throws, I throw, he throws. Done. Why do we do this when we walk? Well, I'm not totally sure like why we want to drop our defense completely. It's kind of an old holdover, but I still think it's really valuable. One thing it definitely works on is reading, and it also works on your timing, because like when you do ABA, you have a big window into the timing. Like when I lunge at Tisco, he knows that by the time I get here, like I'm gonna swing, right? But when I do this, and I just walk forward, I don't know exactly when he's gonna throw, so it kind of trains me to react very instinctually. And it also lets the standing guy, they get to play with more patterns defensively, and they get to practice their timing of when I kind of walk in slowly. It's like if I'm coming in really slow motion, Tisco's like, he's not in my reach yet, not in my reach yet, not in my reach yet, not in my reach yet now. You know what I mean? But I think that's the value in it. I don't think you need to do as much of this as you need to do ABA, the lunging drill. However, I would do even amounts until you guys feel really comfortable doing this. Because this one's weird because a lot of block strikers out there who are really well trained. So, like, you need to be able to. Well, I don't want to go and try to match like Peter's block strike. Like it's not a smart move. You know what I mean? I want to try to fight him somewhere else, or I don't want to even match that with like Jay Lee or Brett. You know, people that are well trained to do it. That's just not where I want to fight, even though I'm pretty good at it, right? So I came up with this drill. I'm like, I need to fucking work on counter timing people. I need to work on throwing at the same time. And remember, a lot of people, if you counter someone, that's really stupid. But a lot of people will say things like, oh, he's just a hop and popper, or oh, he's just Simon throwing. Brett. You are under no social onus to fight the way your opponent wants you to fight. And you shouldn't fucking do it. Because chances are they want you to fight them in a way such that guarantees that they win. You know what I mean? You don't want to do that. I think it's particularly valuable to be under total control of your own timing, right? A lot of people think either block striker or counter timer, and they don't have the ability to switch rapidly back and forth between the two. And I think that's where like truly good fighting comes from, is being under total control of your shots, your body movement, your footwork, your position in space, and your timing. And for some reason, timing tends to be the hard one. You know what I mean? We want people to throw things when we want them to throw them. So I came up with this drill called combos and counters, right? And you specifically practice double throwing and countering. And I will tell you, this one is very fucking difficult. You guys might not be at a stage where you can make sense of what's going on. It's kind of hard, but it's still firmly rooted in block strikes principles, right? So if Tisco is standing, here's how this works. I lunge in, I throw, and I throw again, and Tisco tries to throw at me at the same time. So I'm double throwing, he's blocking once and then throwing back. And he's trying to not get hit, but the game changes a little bit. See, you can't guarantee that you're not going to get hit. There's not always great angles to counter from, right? And he also doesn't really, since I'm throwing twice, he doesn't have any choice but to try to counter, like, instinctively, right? So, like, if I throw, like, let's say I throw in with this one and then I cross, he's able to counter that way. But if I throw over, like if I throw here and then I throw over here, it's a little bit harder to get the angle on this shot such that you counter. So you are allowed to hand block with this drill. Loosing in this drill is really more like getting hit in the torso or the sword arm, right? Because sometimes there's this kind of a meta where, like, if you're fighting or you're sparring in tournaments, well, Simo's not a loss, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of okay to Simo some of the time, you know? And it's not a loss if you hand block, your arm doesn't actually get cut off. You win that fucking tournament round. So you're under no social onus to, like, always block. You know what I mean? Like, some of the time you just get hit in the offhand and fucking kill them, and that's okay. And they have to deal with that. And a lot of people will be like, oh, that's cheesy. Well, you know what else goes great with cheese? It's everything. Cheese is fucking delicious. Tell me I'm wrong, boys.
Can't.
But my point is, you need to be able to do both. Like, people are well trained nowadays. You need to be able to account for both block strike and opening and countering and, you know, everything else. So that's how that works. So just to kind of run that through again, I lunge at Tisco, I throw, and throw again while he tries to counter me. This one is hard. This one hurts. A lot of my counters, I'm going to hit you in the hand with my hand. You know what I mean? And that may not be the best choice for you if you're not a big person. So you are also allowed to, like, if I also want to be thinking about where he's going to throw back, because, like, I know he's going to throw back at me, so I don't want to get hit either. So my combination has to be thinking about, like his return. So, like, if I think he's going to return on my shoulder, if I throw my combination, I want to make sure that I try to get a hand block of some sort of it. Also, like, I want to be prepared for him to throw back at me. I'm not just throwing a 1-2 willy-nilly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the other part of this is you're thinking about this is tied to block strike, like the concept of primary, secondary, tertiary returns. And instead of moving the schema for the primary returns, we move immediately to that guard after we make after we impact the shot. So if I throw low, I want to snap up here, right? So that's just basic information to us now that we've done so much bluster. But now we want to shortcut that and say, okay, well, I know the primary return is there. I'm going to throw into that shit. You know what I mean? So I'll throw down, and then put my hand where his primary return is as I throw at the same time. Or I might throw low and try to hand block where his hand primary return is going to go if I can kill him. But you have to realize that when you do this, if we both hit each other in the offhand, right, like we both hand block, you know, we didn't exactly win the drill. Like we're both the same office we were before. Now we can't hand block. You know what I mean? So you really need to kill the other guy when you counter. And a lot of people are like, I don't know why. Like people are don't like people who counter. I think it's because when you get killed by a really clean counter, I think it's because you feel like a fucking fool. And I think that's why people don't like it. But you lost. I did. So, all right, you guys ready to try this one out?
Yeah, let's do it.
This one is really hard. This one might be a little bit too advanced. You guys might need more time with ABA and BAB first. But let's give it a shot. You can always pause this one, work on the other two, and then come back to the third one when you get it, when you feel like you get it a little bit better. Like the worst thing that could happen with this drill, and the thing is, like, I just made this up 2 months ago, right? And I have a feeling that it works. I've done an okay amount of it, but I don't have the window into it that I have with the other drills. And that's really why I'm out here teaching this one, is because I want you suckers to figure out if this works for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go home and do it, but like I taught this drill at my home. I taught this drill up in Ohio. Now I'm teaching this drill to you guys. You guys are my R&D. All right, I'm the idea guy. You guys are my research and development. So you got to figure out like the cool things to do during this drill, and then send them back to me. So you're like, well, hey, this works. You know, that's what this one is like. The new frontier. I don't know as if there was such a thing.
Is this direct defense?
Huh?
Is this direct defense?
I no fucking idea. It's countering.
Well, direct defense is countering, but you're not blocking with block.
I always thought, like, if you're going into that, I felt like this would be direct offense. But you have to realize it's a mix between the two.
Yeah.
Because we're both using different shit. Like, you're blocking and then countering, you know what I mean? So we're like direct defense into direct offense. And the other guy's just direct offense, you know what I mean? And you also, like, we're allowed to feint eventually. I don't want you guys to do it yet, but eventually you're allowed to feint, so it mixes in some indirect offense too. So you don't want to think like, this drill works on this one thing. No, it doesn't work that way. You want to switch between direct defense, indirect offense, and direct offense rapidly, all the time. The problem is you use that for when fighters are only doing one thing, and you use that schema to pick which techniques you want. But it's just a way of organizing all of these techniques.
It's like
Yeah, it's just where I start picking from the techniques that I want to use. I don't even really think of that anymore. Like, it was just a good structure for me at first. So I don't know. I haven't thought about that stuff in a long time. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do this with Tisco first. Just Tisco. While I make sure, because this one's stupid hard to get the timing down, while I make sure that we can all do it right, and then we'll do the circular thing.
Okay.
Also, you guys wear wrist wraps for this, right? That really does, I think that really does help. Like, I don't wear them because I'm stacked out of my wildest imagination. I'm probably going to wish that I was wearing this. Okay, so I double throw. You block once and then throw back. Don't throw back on the first one. You still have to be under control of your reaction even when you're under duress. You block one and then throw.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm going to be throwing at you at the same time on the second one. Ready? You guys see how we're doing that?
Yeah.
Walking guys, throw twice in a row. Standing guys, block one, throw back. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It's real hard, but I think it's really fun.
Okay.
It's more fun with combinations because you have a lot more options.
We actually feel this a lot at park. A lot of the guys at park fight like this. A lot of the taller guys.
Yep.
So I think.
Yeah, like, you know, this will train you to fight those guys, you know? Because it'll give you a window into how might he counter me and how can I avoid that. strike. You know what I mean? Don't be a hopper, and that was basically all the logic there was to it. It's literally just use smart block strike. But like for me, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like nails to you. But those guys are clearly screws. You know what I mean? You need a different tool to fight those guys.
The reality of the game versus the theory of the game.
Yeah, it's just a practical kind of approach to like, you know, that shit. Yeah. And also, sometimes the best thing you can do is counter, because frankly, it works on people. You know who this works the best on? Is people that try to like, I think, the people that really try to like, they hunker down and explode on you. And one of the best things that you can do is kind of just play chicken. Be like, okay, come on, boy. And then what they do is they'll kind of hunker down, and then you just throw in and hit them, and you're like, oh well, fuck, you know, I got hit. And the other part of having really, really intelligent counters is that if someone is faking you the fuck out every time, it gives you a place to go that could get them to stop doing that. You know what I mean? If someone is faking you out and faking you out and faking you out, a lot of times you just throw in and hit them, you know, while they're faking. And then all of the thing about feints is faking people out and hitting them is so incredibly addictive that people want to practice nothing but that. And then they don't practice their defense as a result. When they go to the park, they just feel like they should be able to one-shot everybody, and they almost become entitled to. So you guys see where you want to go with this too? Like you can. It also shows you the combinations that can basically stop a counter fighter from coming. Like if you anticipate people's counters and you can combo into their counters, and it'll just cancel out their counter, and they'll be like, well, now what the fuck do I do? And it also teaches you to throw really, really safely because you're trying to block and strike at the same time. So don't feel like, because I said like, hey, nobody's going to willingly block strike you anymore, like there's no value in that. I still block strike people a lot of the time. Like block strike works great on people who don't have good offensive form, and they'll do something dumb, like they'll come out and throw like this or something like that, and that's all you need to kill those guys. A lot of the times just get block strike. But for the rest of the world, you'll have to switch between block strike and countering so that they don't know what your plan is. And you know, conversely, it's bad to block strike all the time, just the same way that it is bad to counter all the time, in just the same way that it's bad to do any one thing all the time. You want to switch between all of the options available to you, and you want to continually seek to make more options available to you. That makes sense? Yeah. All right, so we're gonna check our time, switch the rolls, and hit more drills. Now, a lot of people are just, when you throw over, they're taking your sword arm so that you can just hit them again before they can throw back. And like, if they get into a bad position, a lot of the time when they get hit on the hand block, like if you hit me out here, they'll just double tap in to kind of like reset the fight, like if they get kind of caught out, which is like, it's kind of a meta thing to do for tournaments and stuff like that. But we already talked about cheese. It's delicious on crackers and it wins shit. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I picked that up. I'm like, these guys are hand blocking a lot, and they really don't care about it. Like, you should definitely defend yourself first, but I think you should definitely hand block freely, like if it's gonna help you win fights. You know what I mean? So basically the answer is gotta work on both. Like, you gotta work on your defense, work on your hand block too for when your defense doesn't work out. Always block first, but you better have a well-trained hand block. You're gonna lose a lot of fights. Because single sword is, frankly, it's really fucking difficult. You have a huge target area. You have one sword to fight with. Like, you need every little edge that you can get. You know what I mean? All right. Yeah. So that kind of concludes the training that I had set out to get done in this half. I don't know if you guys want to take a break. If you guys want to fight a little bit more till Tiska's got to go. I'm happy to take a break. I'm pretty beat. I would like to have lunch.
Okay.
Lunch sounds fucking amazing. Okay, so we're gonna go over board grind drills, which is basically just block strike with a shield. And the old way of applying block strike to combinations, which I thought was real silly, but it was just do more block strike with single sword, and then when you pick up a second piece of equipment, you should be good. You should be able to just do it. And I find that misses like the whole benefit of using a second piece of equipment. It's not necessarily that you have a thing in each hand and can do two things at once, but rather the piece of equipment, whether it's Florentine or whether it's shield, and you can do any of this shit with like Madu, Florentine, you know, you can't really do a lot of it with down spear. Like, you can do about half of it since you have to be able to reach the other guy. But you can use this shit, you can use this for any combination. It gets a little harder when it's flow. So we'll think of it as more of like a combination grind drill instead of board grind. But it's basically just block strike with a shield, but we're paying attention to some different stuff, right? The first thing we do is we open up the quadrants. We're allowed to hit any quadrant. We pick a foot that's the planted foot, right? We keep that foot in place. You're allowed to step wherever you want with the back foot, or with the other foot that's not locked in place. It's not always the back foot. You're allowed to step whatever you want. For block strike, we don't let you fake, because you don't really have any recourse for feints. When you fight single sword, typically your response to feints is you want to just step back and kind of ride it out. But when we have a second piece of equipment, we have a lot more that we can do about it, so we allow feints and stutters here, right? But we also allow some counter timing, but it kind of eats your turn, and you have to let the other guy throw again if you counter time. So those are like the basic rules. But what I want you guys to work on, the first task here, is keeping your shield tight. A big problem with people's board, especially, is when they throw, their defense comes apart. Like a lot of you guys, when you were fighting, and you would come in here and we grind a little bit, and this would kind of come out, and we would lose track of the shield. We want to keep this as tight as we can, and we're focusing on keeping the shield in and moving the shield efficiently and not letting it off of our body unless it's applicable, like unless it's like a dark side or something. You know, we're working on shield economy. You should do enough block strike that it's simple to you to be able to do the pacing and the swings. Like you should be able to do all the basic swings, all the basic pacing without really thinking about it, because now we're thinking about shields, right? The other thing that you want to work on, since you're allowed to counter time, you want to work on creating the appropriate defense with your shield when you're swinging, right? So if I cross, I may not always want to cross with my shield over here. Like I would leave this here if I thought that he was going to wrap, right? But if I think he might counter time me, I might want to do something like that, right? And create like just the synergy between the pieces of equipment. And like what Tisco just showed you is the bonus part to that is if I throw this way, it's going to draw the shot over there. And it's pretty easy for me to see that coming and block that over there, right? So that's an example of the shield doing the same thing as your sword does, basically when you're thinking about primary, secondary, tertiary returns, that kind of stuff. Your shield will, in a lot of senses, dictate where they're going to throw back at you, right? He's not going to shoulder wrap if I'm real high. This will probably draw like a money shot or a real deep cross or something like that, right? Whereas this position, it's probably going to keep him from money shotting, and he's probably going to try to go over the top, right? So you have to think about, well, where is my shield I want to tack stitch on? And what you start doing is you start figuring out, like, yeah, a lot of people say basic sword and board. Sword and board. You block sword side with your sword and shield side with your shield. Well, that's terribly uncomplicated. Like, the problem is that misses a lot of subtle nuance here. So, like if I'm throwing over here, and throwing like a flat wrap, and he wants to chop back, it's real easy for me to just block that with my sword, right? If he doesn't counter time it. So if I throw back, it's real easy for him to chop over. I can catch that one. But what if I go down like this? Like if I try to throw a big scoop behind him, he's going to cross into me, right? So it's really difficult for me to get this sword back to block his counter shot. So that's an example of when I would switch over here. And you can start kind of doing patterns off of that. Like if I throw down here, I might be able to cross in like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're going to go half-ish speed.
Can I ask a quick question?
What?
You were talking about blocking off the wrap with the shield, and that we're blocking the primaries sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that due to the profile of the strike, or is that due to the speed of the strike?
What?
So this chop is harder to block just because of the profile and the chop's moving faster. Whereas if I draw you out this way, it's safer because you have to reach that far, and the angle is a way that I can perceive it easier.
I mean, maybe.
I'm just asking.
I just don't
Okay.
know what the whole point of the drill is. You'll figure that out. Like, and it gives you a sandbox to figure out those kinds of things. Like this chop is safe now and not other times. I'm not too worried about like the specific part. Basically, we're setting this up in a situation where you will find out where you're vulnerable when you throw, because they will throw at it and it'll just come together. You know what I mean? But it's just examples of you want to free up your shield, and don't think the only thing you can block with is this on this side. You can shift over here to block as well. So basically, it's just block strike. but with shields. So just go ahead and throw a shot. I'll throw back. This way. Okay?
Yep.
Oh, take shot.
Yep.
Sorry, buddy.
It's all good.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So, and the fun part is, there's no 4 halves to that. Like, that was a set. You know? And this way they'll teach you to fight from that range really, really quickly. Because you get hit a lot of times. And you just keep economizing your offense and your defense and trying to keep your stuff tighter and tighter and tighter. And it teaches you how to grind. Also, we didn't really move our feet. But when you start adding the element of stepping around during that drill, it becomes a really good way to kind of exploit angles. Because like when we fight each other up close, the situation shouldn't be static with us duking it out right here. Like we should be stepping around, trying to get the advantage on each other, that kind of stuff. And changing that angle with the back foot is very, very helpful to illustrate that to you. So grab your sticks, kids. And experiment with some of the dark side positions and stuff. I know you were kind of popping in there after your shot was already exhausted, but you're still catching blocks over here, which is something that is, you know, kind of common at the high level. You can use it for other combinations. It doesn't have to be sword and strap shield, but like we worked on, you guys can kind of see the rationale here, I guess, or the overwhelming principle is work on combat from the inside out. So this was working on the grinding was working on the closest possible range. ABA is working on the next range, which is closing, trying to go from far to middle and close range. And then BAB is how we're going to learn how to walk in, right, and bring our guard up and read. So we're going to work on that next. I think we should probably get some water at this point before we hit BAB up. And then CNC is the counter drill, and we'll do that one too. Does this make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of deceptively simple. Like,
Yeah.
why am I the one that thought of this? I'm not even that smart. I don't know. Maybe I'm underselling myself.
Nah.
No.
Can't
Let's
read
get some doing
them. Can't
CNC.
read them.
I think of this kind of drilling, you should probably expect to not hit the other guy very much because we have so much equipment in the way, and it's so much easier to handle counter timing when there's a second piece of equipment in your hands. But there's still a lot of really creative ways of doing it. Like, it's kind of good countering is basically kind of just playing chicken. You know what I mean? You have to kind of just be loose and figure it out and just kind of let it come to you. But just make sure that you guys remember the timing. If Tisco is standing and I'm coming in, I throw and throw again. He blocks and he throws at the same time as the second shot. So make sure you get that nice, crisp timing. You can't really stutter or feint in this one. You should just do the combination and the counter. You should do it with a straight lead so you don't throw the other guy off too much. I haven't messed around with the lunging person being able to open with like a feint or a stutter. I haven't played with that yet. I don't know if that will work or not. I think it would be nice. It would be kind of helpful, but I don't know that it's necessarily, you know, an important part of this particular drill for combos and counters. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys about ready to start that shit?
Let's do it.
All right. I haven't done quite as much at this with combinations. Down a little bit ahead and watching the person in front of me. Some of the times I'm like, hey, that looks like a good idea. Or if I'm standing and I see someone throw a combination I like, I don't remember who threw it, but they threw like a hip and then a shoulder and then kind of rose up, and that one was real fun. But this teaches you to use both pieces of equipment together. It'll guard you against people who are, which is really like countering. Like that said, I don't have as much insight into this drill because I've done all of the other drills for years, and I've done this one. This is like the 6th or 7th time I think I've done it, period. So I don't have like the complete insight into it. I really feel like it works. I feel like the couple of times that I've done it, it got me it got me moving up. I'm really excited to see what you guys do with it, and the guys in Ohio do with it, and other people that I'm going to teach in other areas to do this, and just kind of see what they come up with. But you guys need to make sure, don't do so much of this that it's the only thing you do, right? You should never find yourself in a situation where you are countering without meaning to counter. Like if they can draw you into throwing a cross or something like that, and you're just doing it reflexively, you're in trouble because you're not in control of what you're doing anymore, and they are, you know. So you need to make sure that your counters are kind of planned. For me, it's a gear shift. It's I'm going to counter or I'm not going to counter, you know. And I think my stance gets subtly different when I want to do it or not. I'm hoping that people don't notice what that is. It's something I'm kind of cognizant of. But like you should be able to shift gears. You should be able to say, I'm going to counter, I'm not going to counter. I think the most effective thing to do is like countering about half of the time. Like, or maybe a little bit less. There are some situations where you really don't want to counter. I'll try to think of an example, but like you don't want to be predictable, period. Like countering is clearly for it's for mixing things up. It's for making people think that they have a bead on your timing, and then suddenly you counter them and they're like, oh fuck, I don't know what its timing is at all anymore. So it's a tool to keep them confused. And the nice part about it is when you counter the shit out of somebody, they feel like a fucking idiot because their sword just whiffs through the air if you do it really well. When you do this, keep in mind level changes are important. Combination, synergy, the synergy between the two pieces of equipment is incredibly important. It's basically the same stuff that you do with your offhand with the rest of it. But, do you guys have any questions on that? It's pretty simple, but kind of cool. Just make sure that you guys are, when you get together to do these drills, make sure that you kind of approach it with like a light heart and with the intent to have fun and the intent to learn shit about fighting. Like the worst thing that you can do with this, like a group like this and a set of drills like this, is to get into a match of I'm right and you're wrong and you're not doing this right. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that this is you both want to be doing the same drill, basically. So if you guys get into that kind of debate, like I think that this is like it's okay to think that some things are outside of the scope of this drill. Like if you try to counter time in ABA and BAB, that's clearly wrong. If you try to do a stutter in the middle of CNC, that's clearly wrong too, because it breaks the timing of the drill. Like we're practicing different timings. Mm-hmm. So if you get into a situation like that, just let me know and I'll kind of resolve it before you guys. Just don't ever get into a situation where you're arguing about how it's done, because that's just doesn't help, you know what I mean? So plus we're all adults and shit. So, anyway, those are my drills. CNC is new. You guys are researchers on the forefront of a new drill, a new era. So go ahead and get lots of that done, and kind of just let me know how it goes. Let me see what you come up with. If you come up with sweet shit, tell me about it. That kind of stuff. Okay. If you guys want to film this for me to look at, I would love to look at. I will look at anything you guys send me. That's fair, unless it's like, please don't send me any kite sport sparring. I'm just not interested. Oh my god! If I would really like to see CNC being done, just put the camera on one person or something like that. That would be cool. Anyway, those are the system of drills. If I had total control over the cycle you did, what I would do is I would start with. I would alternate days between single sword and open combination. I don't know, you guys practice a lot, right?
Yeah. Yes, Tato, somehow we practice a lot.
I know you guys practice a lot. So I would alternate days between single and full combo. I happen to find full combo a lot more interesting. If you guys want to do more full combination days, I think that might be a good idea considering your performance. I think that, which was not bad, it was very good. But I think the performance in single sword definitely was better than the performance in combination. So if you guys want to direct your effort, that's what I would do. And also, you could decide to do days where you all do Florentine. If you want to really prepare well for tournaments, that would be a good idea. And all do days where there's sword and board. and you could just mix it up, do whatever. You can change weapons in the middle of the drill. Like, it's a very loose idea of what to do. But I would start with mostly block strike and grinding, and less of the other drills. Like, put on a timer, do 3 minutes of each one, right? For each person on each side. So basically 6 minutes total. 3 minutes standing and 3 minutes moving. And then, as you get through more block strike and more grinding, start shifting your focus away from block strike and grinding into the drills that incorporate movement, right? Because that's the better part of fighting, but you do need your hand movement and your efficient shots and such. You need those in place first. It's all right. All right. Any questions on that?
No.
You guys can organize your training however you want. The other part that I would do is identify what shots where you're weak and patch those up with some pelling each day. If you guys get days where no one else is willing to fight, I would do a full block on every shot. Like, Mel, you need to work on your wrap shots up top. Dan, you need to work on your shots to the body, specifically wraps and diagonal chops. They're hitting me in the knees. You know what I mean? You need to work on you need to work on your top side reps too. Your chops are okay, but you're hitting, when you're low quadrant shots, you're hitting like down here sometimes. Ben and Nate, you guys are pretty good on form. You might want to tweak some of the weirder stuff like reverse wraps, flat slaps, that kind of stuff. Maybe some rising chops in there, but mostly you guys are pretty good. Travis, it's kind of I think you just need some more work on your wraps in general. Your chops are real crisp, but you've been dagging for 11 years. You need to work on your wraps. Other than that, that was all I had planned to get through. I don't think, like, what, 5 hours or something like that? I feel like it was a productive day.
Yeah.
I do too. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. We could fight a little more.